Okay, so we're recording. So thank you for everybody who's here. We've got about 18 of us, I think. And everybody else who isn't able to get to this call, apologies for that, but you do always catch up in the replay. So just before I hit record, I was starting to say that it's clear that a lot of people are seeing massive benefits for themselves already. And I encourage you to keep going. What I would say is if you're on here and this is you, or you're on the you listening to the catch up and maybe this is you, then I'm going to like encourage you to keep going. So if you're somebody who like you really saw this boot camp and you said 6 weeks, definitely I'm going to commit to it, and something happened like in your external world, and maybe your day got busy, your life got busy, and you weren't able to do it, or you did a couple of days, then you weren't able to do it, you did a couple more. So I think there's always a mix of that, right? There'll be people who had an intention to start and never started. There'll be people who had an intention to start and have been kind of in and out. Do you know what? All of that is absolutely fine, because whatever's gone on in the past, we never want to beat ourselves up. But what I will say in a kind of direct way is there'll always be outside circumstances. So if something shows up for you and you're not able to then commit the time for yourself on something that you think you've decided is a priority, know that those things will keep showing up, because what we do in life, right, is we get our musts. So if something isn't, think of something that's a must for you. Is it a must for you, I don't know, to pick up your kids from school at the right time? I'm sure that's a priority that never gets compromised. Is it a must for you to exercise every morning? There'll be things that are on the top 3 things that of your list that you'll never compromise on, and they'll be different for everybody. But when something is a should, like I should go to the gym, I should wake up early, I should commit some time to my own development. When it's a should, the outside world will get in the way. And if we let the outside world get in the way now, we'll let the outside world get in the way tomorrow and the next day and the next month and the next month. Because guess what? Outside circumstances, outside of our control, will always be there. You can't control them, they'll always be there. So you've just got to decide. So if I'm being a bit preachy, it's because I want to, if you need a little bit of a nudge for yourself as to what's important to prioritize in your life, ask yourself honestly, what's in my must? Years ago, I made it a must that I exercised like 3-4 times a week. And it really got on there, not just to do with weight and fitness. A lot of it was to do with mindset for me. So I feel better when I exercise. And now it's a must. I know that I'll never compromise. So the minute I go into the week, I look at my schedule and I set the intention for which exercise I'm doing and when. So just ask yourself, always be asking that question, what's a must and what's a should? You'll always get your musts, but you'll probably compromise on your shoulds. Now, this session is fab, right? So we're going to talk about how you can actually stay in control. And honestly, I didn't time it with the shift in the news, the shift in the C word and what we're starting to hear about, but it's so relevant. What we're going to talk about today is really relevant because it's about you getting the power to stay in control regardless of the circumstances. That's one thing. And then linked to that is how you control your inner world attracts back everything that shows up in your life. And a lot of what we're going to talk about is to do with attitude, quite simply. And there was a time in my life when having a bad attitude almost ruined what turned out to be the single most exciting and best experience of my life. And I'm going to tell you that story briefly before I get into today's material. So picture this. I was 21. I just finished university. So all I loved to do was drink, eat, party and sleep. I was pretty overweight. I was unfit. Exercise wasn't a must then. And on a whim, and partly to avoid the fact that I was horrified by a proper job, like getting a proper job horrified me. So on a whim, I said, I'm going to go on this 3-month expedition to Malaysia. And the expedition involved really cool stuff, projects with villages and kids and building bridges. But there was one part that I was absolutely dreading. And it was a 2-week trek through the Malaysian rainforest. And it was the last project I was going to do. And I dreaded it. It was like I was overweight, I was unfit, I like to drink and party and go to pubs. I didn't like the outdoors. I didn't like nature. I didn't like insects. And I did it because there was so much other good stuff going on. And kind of the idea of that trek filled me with thoughts of like horror. So I'm sat at the edge of this Malaysian rainforest, right? 12 of us were going to do the trek. And you had to carve up who was carrying what, because you had to take everything, your food, what you were going to cook it in, your beds, your sleeping bag. And like the backpack, like literally was so heavy, it was like making me fall over. I was horrified. And I sat at the edge of the rainforest and looking at, so if you look at what my attitude was, right? Because attitude is three things. It's your thoughts, your feelings, and your action. It's not just kind of how you show up and your behavior. It's what you think, how you feel, and then your behavior. So I'm sat at the edge of this rainforest the day before, and all I'm thinking is, I'm going to be at the end of the group, like holding everyone up. I'm going to be miserable because it's going to rain and I'm going to be wet all day. I'm going to be getting no sleep. I hate the taste of the water because you have to put chlorine in the water. There's going to be leeches. My feet are going to be full of blood at the end of the day. All these thoughts and images going through my mind, just dreading it. All I could see was everything I was worried about. So the way I felt was miserable. I felt anxious. And then the way I behaved, do you think I was somebody who people wanted to chat to? Like I just went insular. I just didn't interact with anybody. I went inside myself. And, you know, my attitude was just all wrong. So so we set off and, you know, that was it. I had to do it. I was going to do it. Sure enough, it rained the whole day. I trekked the whole first day, trekked the whole second day, which was actually a climb up the biggest mountain, Mount Tahan. And kind of on the way back down, I was chatting to one of the girls in the group, and she was a Malaysian girl, and it was raining. And she said to me, it's in my culture that we have to give thanks to the rain because it's life. And I'm really struggling she's like, I'm trying not to pray for it to stop raining because we were just miserable with the rain. And she said, but in my culture, we give thanks. So I can't. And that like sent a message to me because I thought, actually, yeah, it's raining because it's giving life to this amazing place. It's allowing us to drink water. And something shifted, and I had a word with myself and I thought, actually, I'm looking at this whole scenario, trying to avoid it and can I see it differently? And then from that point on, my whole attitude shifted. Instead of like seeing the insects and the horror and the sounds of the rainforest like as scary and like creepy sounds, I saw it as mesmerizing. This is a mesmerizing sound. At night time, when you look at the jungle floor, it like lights up, and I used to get creeped out and like, oh, it's all the insects. And I saw it as beautiful. It was just algae that glows. And the whole experience, I'm telling you, like I was 21 years old. Maybe it's quite sad that I haven't had anything quite as dramatically amazing as that in my life. But we trekked all the way through for the 2 weeks. And by the time we got to the other side, honestly, I didn't want it to stop. It was the best thing. The bonds were the best bonds I've ever felt. You know, living outside, you know, living in nature. And I was transformed from that point. Now I actually love hiking. I love the outdoors. And I never went back. I actually was absolutely transformed. But the point of that is, imagine if I'd have stayed in that mental attitude every single day. I hate the leeches, I hate the rain, I hate camping, I hate making fires, I hate porridge. You know, I could see it anyway. I could go that way or I could go that way. And my experience would have been completely different. If that was the trigger, you know, the rain thing, I was like, yeah, we can't pray for it not to rain. Jesus, how can you pray for it not to rain? So that's what we're going to get into. This is about attitude and about, you know, essentially, if you think about that example, if I'd have proceeded the way I started, everything that showed up for me for that 2 weeks would have been in harmony with negativity, misery, because it all operates on frequencies, right? So people would have responded to me miserably. I wouldn't have made great lasting friendships, as opposed to, you know, I'm seeing the beauty in everything. I'm forging amazing connections. I'm swimming in lakes in the Malaysian jungle. It was like, which way do you want to see it? And I'm thankful that it was only on day 2 that I started to shift things. So I'm going to get into some information now on the slides and start kind of bringing this to life for you and what attitude really means in your life. Let me just, I can only see you guys, I can't see the slides. And I guess my experience was nothing like the World War II concentration camps. But Viktor Frankl, who you may know, I've mentioned him before, this is something he said. We who lived in concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Now he was a psychologist, and he's you know, I would recommend you read some of his books. He's a fantastic thinker. And he was like, imagine the concentration camps. You could say, like, if you look at outside circumstances impacting your life, he had just a few challenges, didn't he? You know, stripped of his human freedom, mental, physical torture, starvation, cold, hunger. Yet he realised that you couldn't take what you couldn't take away from him was what he chose to think about, what he chose to focus on, and what something meant. I mean, if you look at somebody like that and you think, okay, we've got a choice now to choose our attitude, because there'll always be things that are worrisome in our life. There'll be pandemics, there'll be economy challenges, there'll be all sorts of things outside of us. But all we've ever got is the control of our inner world. But what we'll get into today, which is the exciting bit, is when you've got control of your inner world, you're actually controlling your outer world. So I'm going to bring us back to this diagram now, and we'll come back to this a lot. I don't apologize for that, because this is the repetition of this information. Because how do we change a paradigm? You need repetition of information, new information that you didn't have before. You're going to get attached to new ideas and beliefs that you didn't have before. And this is the point I want to make here, right? So remember, we talked largely about the two parts of the mind, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Conscious mind being the intellect. This is where we can think, we can choose our attitude using the conscious mind. This conscious mind has a sense of humor. It decides what things mean. The subconscious mind doesn't have any of that. It just accepts anything it's given. It doesn't have a sense of humor. It can only accept anything that's presented to it. So the conscious mind in that respect is the filter between what we see in the outside world and what we internalize. The challenge is we forget that we've got this conscious ability to filter. And when we don't use this conscious ability, we're controlled by everything that's already in the subconscious mind and anything we're just allowing to stream in. Because the subconscious mind is like the iceberg. The subconscious mind is the big part under the surface. The conscious mind is the tiny bit above the surface in relation to controlling everything you think, feel, and do. So the subconscious mind's in control of everything. You have like 70, 80,000 thoughts a day, and the majority of them are driven and come from the subconscious mind. So you can see why on a conscious level as a human being, we think we're intellectually choosing what we do and what we think and the way we feel, but really that's only about 3%. Most of it's just the conditioned way we think and feel. That's kind of the same cycle of thinking that we've always had. So, but then as humans, right, what are our senses? So this is how we navigate our environment. We're human beings, and we navigate our external world with our 5 senses. So we can see what's going on around us, we can hear it, we can smell, taste, and touch. But we kind of then we get conditioned almost that's the only world there is, what we can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. So the thoughts that we think, they either come from the cycle of thinking that we've got just programmed into us, which is like your own thoughts that just get regurgitated, nothing really new from the subconscious part of the mind, or they come from the outside world that we just internalize. So like right now, what's going on, you know, the news, the reports, you know, that it's shifting, isn't it? The tone of it's shifting, the messaging is shifting. And we need to know what's going on, but we can choose what to internalize. But if we let it all stream in, that's the way what we think creates the way we feel. And the way we feel tends to be the way we act. You know, we act in relation to our emotions because we're human beings. And then what we do, you know, our actions is really our behavior. So that creates the results. So when you look at this build-up like this, guys, right, the results that you're getting come from your thinking. We might think it comes from things outside of us, you know, circumstances, conditions, or events. It all originates from the thoughts that you think that are in the subconscious part of the mind, impressed there, create the way you feel. Feeling is the word we created to describe the vibratory rate of the body. So the body literally vibrates, and that creates what we do, which creates the results. So when, you know, we often then, you know, we try and change a result by going to the symptom. So we'll try and change our weight by going on a diet. So we'll try and change the result of I'm overweight by taking the action of I'm going to go on a diet, without dealing with the thinking and the feeling that created the result in the first place. So you're kind of treating the symptoms, not the root cause, because the root cause is your thinking. So what I'm trying to share with you here then is you can think anything you want. Remember what Viktor Frankl said? Remember me sitting at the edge of the jungle? I could be thinking anything I want. I was sat with another guy, Doug, who was an 18-year-old guy who was so excited to run through the jungle with, you would call it a machete, but it's called a parang, like this knife. He was so excited. He thought he was Indiana Jones. It was his bet. He was super charged up for it. And I'm sat there miserable, dreading the whole thing. Two people seeing it very differently because we can think anything we want. So if you imagine, right, just imagine that there's a power. Everything's energy in the world, right? So there's energy that's just always flowing to and through you. So when there's a power that's presented to you, let's say it's the power of an idea. Let's say it's something on the news, if you like. When it's presented to you, it's presented to your mind. That it just is. That thing just is. It's not neutral. It's neither positive or negative. It's neutral. It doesn't have a meaning. We make it so with our thinking. So with the images and the ideas that we attach to it, we make that neutral thing something. Does that make sense? It only gets form when we give it form. Until our conscious thinking mind gives something form, gives it a meaning, it just is. So we can take it down a positive route or a negative route. And I've mentioned a couple of times, we have as human beings 6 intellectual faculties, and one of those is perception. So we have this magical tool called perception that we can use our conscious mind, and we can deploy the power of perception to say, when this power, this energy comes to me, how could I use my perception to form a point of view of it that's going to be helpful to me? How can I look at something differently? Because there's a law of opposites that says, well, everything's got an opposite. The law of opposites says there's an opposite side to everything. Up, down, in, out. There's a front, there's a back. And you've got to have one, you've got to have both to have one. So we're typically in the habit of, we do one of two things as human beings. So that, let's say it's something from the news that we read and we're told it's bad. So we just allow the fact that somebody else gave it the meaning, told us it was bad, and we internalize that. That's one thing we do. Then the other thing we do is, because of this paradigm, these beliefs that we've got in the subconscious part of our mind that create our automatic thoughts, you are uniquely conditioned to respond to the same things in the same way. It's your unique filtering system based on your experiences, based on your own point of view. And there's a million points of view, there's a billion people on the planet, billions of people on the planet. So there's got to be different points of view and different perceptions. But that's the magic of the human mind. We just don't consciously use it in this way because we're not taught to. But if you deploy and strengthen your intellectual muscle of perception, and you can form the habit of saying, how can I choose to look at something? Because we can absolutely think anything we want. Viktor Frankl, you can think anything you want. We forget we're not trained to do it. And we think we don't have any say over what something means. but you do get to shape it with the thoughts. And let's face it, what is your reality other than the conscious thinking that you're giving to it? So lifting this back up, because I went pretty deep, pretty quick there. Power comes to and through you. You can shape something with your thinking, and you can form the habit. If something looks bad, negative, just know that if something's got something really, really negative, there's got to be something really, really good in it. So what you got to ask yourself, what am I going to look for? Because I know which one I'd want to look for. You want to look for the good, find the good. And if you're not in the habit of doing that, it's just because you're not in the habit of doing that, and you can develop the habit of doing it. So when we look at the external circumstances, we get to shape them. We get to shape them with our thinking. But the other thing that's sneaky, the sneaky little paradigm, it's insidious, right? Because if you think about what your paradigm is, it's your set of universal truths about the world. The paradigm tells you what's logical. The paradigm tells you what's real and what's not. Your paradigm tells you what's like almost what's truthful and what's not, because they're your beliefs. And you've had those beliefs usually for so long that it's what's the phrase? You can't see the frame while you're in the picture. Does that make sense? You can't see the frame while you're in the picture. That's what your paradigm does. It's sneaky. So your conditioned beliefs also have a way of keeping you locked into a certain way of thinking and a certain way of seeing the world. And if you don't get access to this kind of information and a system to change it, you will keep seeing the world in exactly the same way. You will keep internalizing the same thoughts, and you will keep having the same feelings and the same results. So to change anything, you've got to know that your conditioned beliefs are going to keep you locked in, but you've also got to develop this power of choosing the energy, choosing the meaning that you give to something. So we lift this up a little bit now. I know I get a bit heavy and teachery on some of those slides, but let's just look at this, right? So look at this slide, and what do you see? Just ask yourself, what do I see?
Green dot.
So we see a green dot. Could say green circle, could say green shape. Why is it green? Why is it a circle? Why is it a dot? What if I said to you, it's not, it's a red square? Why do we all see that? And unless we're colourblind, because somebody who's colourblind might see it slightly differently, why do we all see it as a green dot? See, at some point in our life, we were told what green looked like, and we were told what a dot was and what a circle was. And then universally, this is where the paradigms get power, everybody else agrees it's a green dot. So guess what? It's almost a fact, isn't it? The fact is, it's a green dot. If somebody had changed this for you and you lived in a different town, and for some reason everyone in your town saw it as a red square, you'd have a conflict, wouldn't you? But you'd be seeing it differently. What makes one right and one wrong? Does anybody remember like the color of cheese and onion crisps? I hope this doesn't always resonate with people, but it really does with me. So cheese and onion crisps used to be, Walker's changed the color of cheese and onion crisps to blue. When I was growing up, cheese and onion crisps were green. I don't know if you guys see that. And it's an example for me of, cheese and onion crisps were green all of my life, and then Walker's, because now they've changed the color. Everyone now sees that cheese and onion are blue. It's a similar thing that I'm trying to get to with beliefs. Just because it's universally accepted, just because everybody else thinks the same thing, does it make it true? What about when the earth was flat? It was flat, wasn't it? It was flat to everybody who lived on it at that time. All the finest minds in the world at that time said, yeah, the earth's flat. That was the truth. So what is the truth? And you've got to reevaluate your beliefs, because that's all they are. And they're not all wrong. You don't have to suddenly change green to red, but you've got to very regularly understand, what are my beliefs, and which of those beliefs are actually not serving me? Which are the beliefs that are going to keep me in a life that's no longer powerful for me? You know how you're going to do this? I'm going to set you some homework on this, which I'll post today or tomorrow. But you're going to kind of do a bit of a mental house cleaning, right? And you're just going to ask yourself, what are all the ideas? Beliefs are just ideas. What are all the ideas I have in the different areas of my life. So it might be, I'm a parent. What are all the ideas I have about parenthood, about good parenting, bad parenting? What are all the ideas I have about money? Just what are my ideas about money? Because your ideas are different to somebody else's, but what are yours? Is it that money, to want money makes you greedy? Is it that you should want money and you can never get enough? Is it that there's not enough money to go around? Is it that money is scarce? What are all your ideas? What are all your ideas in relation? Just mull this over. What are your ideas in relation to love? Relationships. Do you believe relationships should be joyful and harmonious and mutually beneficial? Or do you believe that relationships equal conflict and anxiety and stress? You will have ideas, and all of these ideas, these are those beliefs that shape the belief system. This shapes your own, and it's individual to you. No two people have it the exact same way. It's your paradigm. And when you start to understand what yours are, you can start to say, okay, is that an absolute truth? So if I believe relationships equal pain and resentment and ill health, let's say, I don't know, is that an absolute truth? And does that belief serve me? Is that belief actually benefiting my life, or is it causing me pain? Or is it keeping me from the things I actually want in my life? Because it's just an idea that you're accepting as true. And the sneakier thing again about the paradigm is it shapes your logic. Think of that. Your way of perceiving something is shaped by your paradigm. Your way of filtering something is shaped by your paradigm. And you've got to keep a real open mind about this stuff, because a closed mind will never accept a new idea. And this is a new idea for many people. So how do we change it then? How do we change it? We keep coming back to this with study, and it does require study. Just because you're intellectually now aware of this information doesn't mean something's going to change, because it won't. You need to study, and through study and accepting and acknowledging new ideas through a process, you can change your beliefs and results. So typo on the slide, who spotted that? So you can change your beliefs and you can change your results, because all this is this little purple shaded part of the mind, that's the subconscious mind. How did they get there? Your beliefs. They got there through everything you've seen and heard on repetition and everything you continue to internalize, right? And they get planted there in the subconscious part of the mind, which runs the show. They are giving you today's results. The best part about it is you become aware of the paradigm, you become aware of your beliefs, and you realize the only thing stopping you from achieving the things you want are some of the ideas that are in harmony with the results that you've got that you don't want, and you need ideas that are in harmony with the new results that you do want. So we do this through a process, through study, through the planting of new beliefs into the subconscious mind. And that's what we're doing with this bootcamp, right? We're doing the starting point with this bootcamp. Clearly there's, if you're new to this, then you're just becoming aware of it. Even if you've studied this for a while, I've been studying this for years and my awareness continues to grow and grow. But this bootcamp is definitely the starting point for you to start to take control of your inner world, because that controls your outer world, not the other way around. So what have we got you doing then? There is bootcamp. So we've got you focusing on your goal. Set a goal and focus on it. So that's something positive, something you want. We've got you thinking about what you appreciate today. Now, gratitude is something you appreciate. Doesn't mean you are satisfied with your results. You should be happy, but you can still be dissatisfied. You can be happy and dissatisfied at the same time, because you should be dissatisfied. Because when you're dissatisfied, you're wanting to grow and expand and continue to experience this world and achieve new things and grow yourself as a human being, contribute more. But we should be grateful and appreciative of what's here right now. And notice that these are all on the positive polarity, right? The things you're doing every morning are setting yourself up to focus on the positive. You're going to put yourself in a positive vibration. Meditation does that as well, because it limits the anxiety, it limits frustration, and it also resets. It resets. The affirmations are a way to plant new ideas into this, new beliefs. Exercise is a great way to lift your mood, to lift the endorphins and get you onto a positive polarity. I don't know about you, but it's one thing that actually saves me if I'm really in a slump or struggling to like get my mind in the right place. That's my go-to. And change your paradigm. I mean, that's a big thing. It could be change your beliefs, but we only change them one or two at a time. The reason the change your paradigm isn't quite in green is because it's a continuous thing, and you're not going to change your paradigm or all of your beliefs through this 6 weeks. You're definitely going to have some new ideas, and you're going to believe, and you're going to plant new ideas. But if you want to shift this up a big level and go for big transformational results, this requires continuous daily study and a process to identify the beliefs that are not going to be in harmony with a big goal that you're going to set, and figuring out how to, not figuring out, defining the beliefs that you want to plant that are going to be absolutely match the thing you want. So I posted on yesterday about, me changing jobs. I had loads of beliefs about me doing this now not being me. So when I did that, if you do that homework and you say, like, I'm going to look at all my beliefs about what's true, what I think is true. When I looked at mine, I was like, well, the beliefs I have about me as a personality, these things don't match. I'm a little bit introverted. So I knew that belief in the cold light of every decision and every day would stop me moving forward. It doesn't matter what I said consciously, I want to do this. I wanted this new business. I want to spend my life helping people with this program and this information. Doesn't matter what I thought consciously, and doesn't matter how much desire I had. If I still believed on a deep, deep level that I was too shy, too introverted, not very good at kind of standing up with the microphone and addressing a big crowd, then what do you think my actual behavior would be when it comes to having to do that? Well, I'd either force myself and kind of die of anxiety, or I wouldn't enjoy it anyway, so what's the point? But I didn't. I identified the belief that was going to block me, and I changed it. Make it sound easy, don't I? But you can. And it is simple, and it's only easy if you're prepared to put in the disciplined, regular, daily work. Because it's an inside job. Any change is an inside job. Now let me do a time check, because I'm throwing a lot. Oh, we're okay. I'm throwing a lot at you, but I love this part. This is the kind of last idea I want to share, and then we can have a conversation, and we can definitely hear about your wins and how you're getting on. So, I don't know if you're familiar with universal laws. There's a bunch of laws that govern the universe, that govern the world. And when you think of a law, if an apple falls from the tree, what happens? Well, you can answer me. It drops to the ground, right? Gravity is a law, and the apple will always fall from the tree. During the lockdown, we got the kids a pool, it's not a swimming pool, like a big paddling pool. And William had 3 or 4 figures. He had the Hulk, Spider-Man, and something else. And he would throw them into the pool. And he would say, look, Mum, Spider-Man, he sinks. And then he would throw Hulk in. He goes, Hulk floats. Hulk was a bigger guy, and his muscles, that must be more buoyant. And then he would get them out, and but before he threw them, he'd been throwing them in randomly all day long. And now he knew that every time he threw Spider-Man in, he'd sink to the bottom. And he knew every time he threw Hulk in, Hulk would float. Every time, not some of the time. Spider-Man never decided to float, and Hulk never decided to sink. It's a law. I don't know what that law is called, but it's to do with weight and density, I'm sure, and what sinks and what doesn't. But it's a law, just like the apple falling off the tree, just like any of the laws you can physically prove in the physical world. So what about the laws that you can't see? And James Allen says this: cause and effect. This is one of the laws. Cause and effect are as absolute and undeviating in the hidden realm of thought as in the world of visible and material things. And when it comes to energy, the law of cause and effect says that what you send out comes back. Energy always returns to the source of its origination. And this is where we get into the idea of you know, however you've been exposed to this, you know, you might have heard of karma, you might have heard of the law of attraction. Whatever you've heard of, this is where we start to unpick what we're actually talking about. So the fact of the matter is, if you are sending out negativity, you've got to expect negativity back. If you're sending out positivity, you will get positivity back. And that's true, as it says by James Allen in this quote. It happened. Just because you can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not a law. Every time it's a law. And the thing that like throws us off as humans is, you know, we'll maybe give great energy to somebody and get a load of rubbish back from them, because we're really expecting that kind of energy to come back from the person we gave it to. But it's not like that. It just comes back. It just comes back. Not necessarily from the person if you gave somebody something great or somebody does something bad to you, you don't necessarily see that kind of linear cause and effect, you know, immediately. But believe me, when you get into the habit of making it a habit to take control of your thinking, because if you're like, let's say you drive down the street and somebody cuts you up and you get some road rage and the person's long gone, but you're maybe like half chasing them, and in your mind you're having an argument with them and maybe hoping they stand in dog poo or something like that, and you're swearing at them, but they're gone. Now, to create that anger and that frustration and whatever it is you say in the car to yourself, where does that energy come from? You have to feel it first. To give it to somebody, to create it, you have to feel it. So it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Think about that. And if you really believe what I'm saying, which you may do, you may be skeptical, if you believe this on any level, why would we ever send anything negative out? Why would we ever criticize another person? Why would we ever judge another person? Why would we ever send negativity? If you think about it though, miserable people tend to find a way to be miserable, and then they'll get more misery back. It tends to happen that way. And guess what? Your goal is on a frequency that you need to get on. So if your goal is on a frequency of joy and a certain energy that you need to be sending out to get on that frequency, if you want to attract that goal to you, you can't do that sitting frustrated and annoyed and grumbling in the corner of your house every day. It's not going to happen. This is such an exciting idea that, honestly, I mean, we could spend another 6 months exploring this law, exploring the law of vibration, the law of attraction. But for now, I think just raise to your consciousness. When you're doing these things every day, you're thinking about goals, you're thinking about affirmation, you're thinking about who you're grateful for, and you're telling them about it. Tell people what you notice that they do, that's, you know, that they do well. Think about those people who you love being around and you wonder what they do. You think they've got this magic charisma or something. If you really look at it, they're probably in the habit of lifting other people up by noticing what they're good at, saying something positive. And it's not just blind praise. It's got to be from a real place. It's got to be genuine. It's got to come with the right energy. Otherwise, that's communicated anyway. If you really move through your days knowing that anything you send out comes back, and it's weird, isn't it? Like, I go to the school gates and these people are not bad people, but when you're tuned into this the way I am, it's almost like human nature to have a little grumble, isn't it? It's like, especially we grumble about the weather, or we grumble about the way the teachers are handling the footprints on about the virus to try and keep us apart, and everyone's just grumbling about something. It's like natural. If you want to be the person who like notices the good, points out the good, highlights that, it's like, honestly, it's transformational. But if you're not somebody who does this, and most people don't do this habitually because we're not conditioned to, and most people around us don't do it, you have to start forming the habit of doing it before every day. So every single day now, when you're setting your intentions, you're thinking about the day. That's why I said, tell somebody you're grateful for them. You might want to sit there and think, who can I phone and just tell them I really appreciate them? The next person I meet, I'm going to make sure I notice something that they do well, and I'm going to tell them. Even if you didn't believe anything I'm saying about the law of cause and effect in the hidden realm of thought, and you thought, I'm not really there, but if you studied this for just a little bit like I have, you would be there. But even if you're not, you would have to accept that To move through your days looking to serve other people and give to other people will create a better feeling inside of you. So even if that was the only reason I motivated you to kind of show up and give and serve and be more positive and maybe look for what people do well as opposed to look for what people do badly, even if you reject everything else I've said, you've got to accept that that's a better way to live, right? But you have to form the habit of doing it because we're not in the habit of it mostly. So this is the summary that I've been you'll see that I've been posting each Monday the build of these habits. So we started with 20 minutes, we built to 30 minutes. So the me morning that you're going to put in place, my ultimate suggestion is summarized here. And there'll be more you can do, and you can add or you can do what feels right. But this is my suggestion from my experience and what I've been taught and what I teach my clients. We do these 6 things. So what we've added this week is a commitment to your own personal development by studying. So you do all the other things. And remember at the start, I said, we kind of get our musts, but we don't get our shoulds. People who say, I want something to change, but they don't, but it's cause and effect, right? So I want something to change. I can probably identify the thing I need to change to get the result. So maybe I want to start a new business, and to do that, I need to have studied something. I need to understand something. Or maybe I want to lose weight, and I know that if I get up and exercise for 30 minutes every day, I'm probably going to lose weight. We know the habit, but we don't make it a habit. So right at the start in week 1, I said that these are success habits. People at the top of their game, elite athletes, top earners, people who are just, whoever's excelling in their field, in whatever, not just a profession, in life, abundantly, love, relationships, fulfillment, happiness, and the wealth and the things. They commit time to personal growth. It's woven into their life. You don't get top tennis players, top cyclists, elite athletes reaching their peak and then going, I don't need a coach anymore, I'm done. They don't do that. They don't stop. They keep going, they keep growing, they keep expanding. So if we want to live a life like that's like the best we can live, why wouldn't we copy the habits of the people experiencing the best results? And the people experiencing the best results commit to their never-ending growth. Every single day they commit and do something, they weave it into their life, which is why study and personal development, because ultimately what you create on the inside is what you create on the outside, and you can create everything in your environment by doing the inner work. That being said, then, if you truly get that and believe me and buy into that, surely you would weave in every single day, you would be doing something to expand your mind. You'd be doing something to help you think differently. You'd be doing something to shift that paradigm, because you don't just change your paradigm and then, great, version 2.0, I'm done. You'll probably want something different. You'll probably want to grow again. That's what humans do. We just want to expand and grow and express. And when you want to expand again, guess what? Create new beliefs. That's the power of it. So number 6 is study and personal development. And to help with that, what I'm going to do, it'll be later today or first thing in the morning, I'm going to set some homework, and it'll involve some personal work for yourself. So you've got to be continuously understanding where you are and kind of how you're programmed right now. And I'm going to set something for you to read every day for a week. It'll be the same thing. It might feel weird, but that's how you change your paradigm, the repetition of a new idea. So stay tuned in the group. I'm going to give you number 6, some personal exercises and something to read or even write out in full for at least a week. So I'll get that posted. Okay, and then finally, before we open up to our conversation, we continue for another 2 weeks, and I'll be sharing more information, more ideas, and we'll just keep going through some of this stuff. That's the 6. So that's the complete. So this is the one to print. This is the one to keep and print, and the one to say, right, these are the things I'm going to do every day. And lastly, somebody asked me a question in the group about vision boards. Yeah, I mean, vision boards are just another way of visualization. You can write the script out, you can record your script you can record a script about your goal, you can record it like a movie. You can visualize it with a vision board, or you can journal about it. So anything that helps with goal visualization, do it. Okay, let me get this recording stopped and then we can answer any questions. And we didn't get to wins at the start, so maybe we can do wins as well.